Hi, this is Robert with Cruzbike, and today on our A4x we're going to install the underseat pannier rack. The rack is basically the S40 and Q rack with some extended sides. We're going to put it together and install it on our A4x. The only thing that's different from other installs is we've added some brackets to the top. Let's get started. All right, the A4x underseat rack allows you to fill this center space right under your seat with two panniers. Here we removed the frame bag and we're going to install this underseat rack in its place. You can use the underseat rack and the frame bag at the same time, but for ease of the install, I've removed the frame bag here. Okay, the underseat rack installs and the mounts under the seat. There's also mounts on the lower part of the bike. Technically, you can install this rack at the bottom as well. I prefer to install it under the seat. It allows you to still use the kickstand. If you're using a double kickstand, you might be able to install it at the bottom, but for the stock setup, installing the underseat rack in the upper position is the best bet. Now, in order for us to get proper spacing for a lot of different panniers out there, we're going to add these extension brackets to our rack. Then we will simply mount it to the frame. Let's build our rack first. Okay, your rack comes with 4 extension brackets and 4 shorter bolts and nylock nuts. Also 4 30mm spacers and longer screws. And also 4 medium length 12mm screws and 5mm nylock nuts for the cross members. Okay, for the extensions, we're going to use our 10mm shortest bolts. And we're going to install them at the very top hole. And we're going to tighten those down. We're not going to snug them all the way. We're going to make them so they're a little bit flexible back and forth still. Here we have all 4 of our extension brackets installed. You can see here at the very top hole. Now we're going to install our cross members and connect the rack pieces together. Important to note, we need to put these in a cross in an X pattern in order for us to have stability in the rack. Here we have the tabs. They're both going to face the same direction. We're going to use our slightly longer 12mm length screws for this install. We'll put 1 set on the front and then tighten it down with our nylock nut. And then when we go to connect it to the other side, we're going to put it on the same side, except we're going to not put it at the top. We're going to put it on the lower hole, so we have an X pattern. Now note, both of these front ones are installed on the front of the tabs. So they're not alternating front and back, they're both on the front. And then we're going to attach the other one on the back side, since we can't put it on the front. This gives us a nice sturdy bracing side to side so your panniers don't sway side to side on the bike. Now we'll use our hardware again to install the second brace to the sides. And that's our general assembly of the rack. Now note, none of these fasteners are super solid tight at the moment. Everything is a little bit flexible, but not loose. That's going to allow us to position the rack on the frame much easier when we slide it onto the bike. All right, here we go. So we have our bike ready to go, and we're going to use our longer bolts. Now note, I have put a little bit of grease on the threads of these screws. I highly recommend doing this. Also, we're going to be very careful not to cross thread these bolts. This is why our brackets are a little bit loose, so we have a little bit of flexibility. We're also going to be using our 30mm spacers to space out the rack so we have the proper distance, so we have a nice even sides. And we're simply going to slide this up under the frame with the X bracing towards the front. Then we're going to use our long bolts through the top holes with our 30mm spacers. We're going to very carefully tighten these in. Now the reason our top braces are a little bit loose is in case we need to shimmy them around just a little bit so we do not cross thread these holes in the frame. Then we'll be able to snug these up, and then we'll repeat it for the other side. Okay, once we have everything secure on the frame, we can go back, make sure everything is nice and straight up and down and even, and then we will tighten all of our hardware. We'll tighten the bolts to the frame. We'll also use our 8mm wrench and our 4mm Allen to snug down all of the bolts that we previously had just a little bit loose. We're going to make sure everything now is nice and tight. That'll make sure our rack stays nice and secure. We're going to tighten all our fasteners, do a double check, make sure everything is secure. And as you can note here, with our rack fully installed, the kickstand still works just fine. And you're ready to haul any amount of gear. Now, if you couple this with the frame bag, the rear rack, and the underseat rack, you can carry everything you need for whatever adventure you can imagine. All right, well, that's all for now. And as always, if you have questions, please contact us at support@cruzbike.com, and happy riding and happy adventures.